Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by, and welcome to the first quarter 2023 Hello Group Inc. earnings conference call. Please note the conference is being recorded today. I would now like to hand the conference over to your first speaker today, Ms. Ashley Jing. Thank you. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, operator. Good morning and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Hello Group's first quarter 2023 earnings conference call. The company's results were released earlier today and available on the company's IR website. On the call today are Mr. Tang Yan, CEO of the company, and Ms. Peng Hui, CFO of the company. They will discuss the company's business operations and highlights, as well as the financials and guidance. They will both be available to answer your questions during the Q&A session that follows. Before we begin, I would like to remind you that this call may contain forward-looking statements made under the safe harbor provision of the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. Such statements are based on management's current expectations and current market and operating conditions, and relate to events that involve known or unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors, all of which are difficult to predict and many of which are beyond the company's control, which may cause the company's actual results, performance, or achievements to differ materially from those in the forward-looking statements. Further information regarding this and other risks, uncertainties, and factors is included in the company's filings with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The company does not undertake any obligation to update any forward-looking statement as a result of new information, future events, or otherwise, except as required under law. I'll now pass the call over to our CEO, Mr. Tang Yan.
大家好，感谢参加今天的电话会。一季度我们取得了非常扎实的业绩成果，为推进后疫情时代的业务发展奠定了很好的基础。接下来我为大家重点回顾一下开年以来团队在各条业务线上取得的进展，以及未来的发展规划。
Hello everyone, thank you for joining our call. We delivered solid results in the first quarter, laying a good foundation for our business development in the post-pandemic era. Now, I will review the progresses we've made in each business line since the beginning of the year and our future development plans.
首先介绍一下财务表现。2023年一季度总营收 28.2 亿人民币，同比下降 10%， 环比下降 12%。同比下降幅度较上年四季度有所收窄，好于我们年初预期。调整后营业利润 5.18 亿人民币，同比增长 12%， 环比增长 4%， 对应营业利润率 18%， 同比提升4个百分点，环比提升3个百分点。利润率在收入下行压力下依旧实现同环比增长，主要来自探探扭亏为盈，减少对集团利润的挤压，以及现金流业务行之有效的降本增效策略。不考虑探探，陌陌主站及独立新 Apps 共计营收 25.1 亿人民币，同比下降 10%， 环比下降 12%。调整后营业利润 5.03 亿人民币，同比下降 19%， 环比小幅下降 2%， 对应营业利润率 20%。探探营收 3.09 亿人民币，同比下降 12%， 环比下降 11%。为应对疫情及经济形势的诸多不确定性，去年下半年探探以减小亏损为目标，启动了减投控本的策略。本季度探探实现了成立以来首次经营层面的季度盈利，调整后营业利润 1,448 万人民币，对应利润率 5%， 去年同期为亏损 1.58 亿人民币。我对探探团队过去几个季度在降本增效的执行方面展现出的把控能力感到非常满意。
I will start with a brief overview of our financial performance. For the first quarter of 2023, total group revenue was 2.82 billion RMB, down 10% from the same period last year and 12% sequentially. Top-line performance came in better than our expectations, as the year-on-year decline in revenue narrowed compared to the previous quarter. Adjusted operating income was 518 million RMB, up 12% from Q1 last year and 4% sequentially, with a margin of 18%, up 4 percentage point year-on-year and 3 percentage quarter-over-quarter. Profitability improved despite the downward pressure on top line, mainly due to Tantan's break-even, which relieved pressure on the group's profit level, as well as the solid cost control on the cash cow business front. Total revenue from the Momo app and standalone new apps was 2.51 billion RMB, down 10% year-over-year and 12% quarter-over-quarter. The adjusted operating income was 503 million RMB, down 19% year-over-year, or a slight decrease of 2% from the previous quarter, with a margin of 20%. Total revenue from Tantan came in at 309 million RMB, down 12% year-over-year and 11% quarter-over-quarter. In response to the many uncertainties surrounding the pandemic and its impact on the economy, we initiated a cost control strategy in the second half of last year to reduce low-efficiency channel marketing spend in order to narrow Tantan's net loss. As a result, in Q1, Tantan delivered its first quarterly profit at the operating level since its inception, with an adjusted operating income of 14.48 million RMB, representing a margin of 5%, compared with an adjusted operating loss of 158 million RMB in the same period of last year. I'm very pleased with Tantan's team's ability to execute and improve cost efficiency over the past few quarters.
上年末，我们完成了整体组织架构调整，将陌陌、探探和创新产品分成3个相对独立的业务板块。这种以产品生命周期为单位的运营管理方式，有助于我们在战略和执行层面设立更清晰的目标，也有利于产品团队更专注用户体验和商业化的融合及平衡，以便更好地释放长期的产品及商业价值。我在3月份的财报会上给大家介绍了集团2023年各条业务线的战略重点。对于陌陌主站成熟产品，我们的要求是稳规模、降成本，保持现金流业务持续稳定产出。探探的战略目标是实现盈亏平衡，跑通适合亚洲市场约会文化的产品和商业模式，在商业正循环的基础上追求可持续增长。关于新产品，我们计划持续丰富品牌矩阵，拓宽陌陌和探探之外的业务边界，打造长期增长引擎。下面我来介绍一下具体的情况。
At the end of last year, we completed the alignment of our overall organizational structure and divided Momo, Tantan, and the new endeavors into 3 relatively independent business segments. This lifecycle-based management approach makes it easier for us to devise and execute different strategic priorities for products at different stages of their respective lifecycle, allowing our product teams to focus effectively on the integration and balance of user experience and monetization to better unleash the long-term product and commercial value of each app. On the March earnings call, I outlined our strategic priorities for 2023 across our businesses. For the mature Momo app, our goal is to keep the user and revenue scale stable, continue to optimize cost structure, and maintain the productivity of the cash cow business. For Tantan, our goal is to achieve overall break-even for the year and develop products and monetization models that are suitable for the Asian dating culture in order to pursue sustainable growth on the back of a positive business cycle. With respect to new products, we will enrich our product portfolio, push the boundaries beyond Momo and Tantan, and develop long-term growth engine. Now, I'll walk you through the details.
首先是陌陌主站，作为一个成熟品牌，实现现金流业务持续产出，需要满足2个关键因素：一、持续优化产品运营，拓展新的营收玩法；二、提升资金及人员使用效率。陌陌1季度超预期的财务表现，很好地验证了团队在战略重点的执行方面取得的成果。虽然1季度陌陌主站面临多重外部压力，流水同比有所下滑，但新 apps 的收入保持快速增长，部分缓解了陌陌流水下行的压力。新 apps 对 WAS 的增量贡献，使得增值业务对直播流水占比由上年平均的 87% 提升至1季度的 93%， 营收结构持续优化。
For the mature Momo app, in order to ensure that the cash cow business remains stable, we must optimize product operation and introduce new monetization features, as well as improve cash utilization and personnel efficiency. Momo's better than expected financial performance in the first quarter is a good demonstration of our team's execution and capabilities on those strategic priorities. Although revenue from the Momo app declined year-on-year due to multiple external pressures, new standalone apps continued their rapid growth momentum, partially offsetting the pressure on Momo app. The incremental revenue contributed by the new standalone apps to Momo's value-added service line resulted in an increase in the revenue ratio of VAS and live streaming from an average of 87% last year to 93% in the first quarter, which further optimized our revenue structure.
一季度陌陌主站直播业务营收 12.9 亿人民币，同比下降 13%， 环比下降 17%， 同比下降主要来自疫情以及去年二季度配合监管要求进行了产品调整，环比下降则来自上年末疫情爆发对供给侧产生的严重冲击，叠加春节传统淡季对流水造成了较大的压力。本季度直播财务表现好于预期，流水环比下降幅度小于上年同期水平，主要得益于运营活动带来的增量流水以及产品升级带动自然流水回升。为了促进供给侧恢复，我们向主播派发了开播奖励，相关的增量成本被盛典活动回调成本所对冲。一季度分成比例环比基本保持稳定，截止到3月，供给侧基本恢复到上年末疫情爆发前的水平。
In the first quarter, Momo's live streaming revenue was 1.29 billion RMB, down 13% year-over-year and 17% sequentially. The year-over-year decrease was mainly due to the pandemic and product adjustments to complying with regulatory requirements in the second quarter last year. The quarter-over-quarter decline was due to the severe impact of COVID infection surge on the supply side at the end of last year, coupled with negative Chinese New Year seasonality. The financial performance of the live streaming business in Q1 turned out to be better than expected, with a lower sequential revenue decline than in the same period last year, mainly due to incremental revenue from operational events and a rebound in organic revenue brought about by product upgrades. In order to stimulate supply-side recovery, we offered incentives to broadcasters to resume the live shows. The related incremental costs were offset by the reduction in competition event costs. The revenue sharing ratio in the first quarter was relatively stable compared to the previous quarter. By March, the supply side had almost recovered to its level before the COVID infection spike at the end of last year.
一季度不包含探探 VAS 营收 11.9 亿人民币，同比下降 5%， 环比下降 6%。 其中陌陌主站 VAS 营收 9.69 亿人民币，同比下降 14%， 环比下降 7%。 独立新 apps 营收 2.25 亿人民币，同比增长 66%， 环比持平。主站流水下滑主要来自疫情爆发叠加春节因素，对大盘流量以及付费意愿造成了严重的冲击。为了缓解外部因素对付费人数以及 ARPU 产生的负面影响，社交线传统礼物围绕节庆时点推出了主题活动，尽量使流水规模在淡季保持稳定。音视频场景供给侧优化推出流水，在春节低点过后很快回归增长趋势。3月末，聊天室推出了多人的互动玩法，初期数据显示对提升 ARPU 有较大的作用。
In the first quarter, VAS revenue excluding Tantan totaled 1.19 billion RMB, down 5% year-over-year and 6% sequentially. VAS revenue from the Momo app totaled 969 million RMB, down 14% year-over-year and 7% quarter-over-quarter, while revenue from the standalone app was 225 million RMB, up 66% year-over-year and flat sequentially. The decline in Momo VAS was mainly due to the severe impact of COVID on traffic and users' propensity to pay for VAS, combined with negative seasonality. In order to mitigate the negative impact of external factors on the paying user count and ARPU, we launched the themed events around the Chinese New Year holiday in our traditional virtual gifting social use cases, and try to maintain a stable revenue scale in the off-season. In audio and video-based social entertainment experiences, we optimized the supply side to bring revenue back to a growth track soon after the Chinese New Year. In late March, we introduced a new multiplayer interactive feature in the chat room, and the initial data shows that it has a notable effect on improving ARPU.
从用户及运营数据上看，上年12月疫情政策开放后，感染大面积爆发， 导致 MAU 在短期内经历了非常严重的打击。1月疫情感染达峰后，各地用户规模陆续回升，但恢复趋势受春节淡季因素影响，中途被打断。春节假期期间，活跃用户达到同期历史低点，但春节过后，用户规模及活跃度迅速回升，回流力度及持续时间都好于往年以及春节前短暂的回暖趋势。3月 MAU 环比增长 13% 至 1.065 亿，接近去年9月份的水平。渠道方面，得益于持续的提效策略优化，客单价较去年同期下降近 10%， 使我们能以更低的成本投入在渠道，获得相对稳定的用户规模。资金使用效率的提升对促进陌陌整体利润水平起到正向帮助。一季度陌陌主站付费用户780万，环比持平。疫情爆发及春节长假对 WAS 长尾用户消费需求造成尤其严重的负面影响。假期后，人们生活回归正常化，用户消费情绪也进入恢复趋势，但由于一季度上旬付费用户水平过低，拉低了整个季度的均值。各项活跃度指标方面，年初用户活跃度及留存的变化趋势与 MAU 保持一致。进入反弹期后，受疫情影响较大，也就是 LBS 属性的强的场景恢复势能尤其明显。
In terms of our user base and operating metrics, after the removal of the zero COVID policy in December last year, MAU was severely hit by the large-scale infection surge over a short period of time. After COVID cases peaked in January, MAUs in various regions gradually picked up, but the recovery was negatively impacted by Chinese New Year. During the holiday, MAUs fell to an all-time low for the same period. However, MAUs and user engagement rebounded rapidly after the holiday, and the extent and duration of the recovery were better than previous years and the short recovery period before the holiday. In March, MAUs increased 13% sequentially to 106.5 million, close to the level in September last year. Channel marketing unit acquisition costs decreased by nearly 10% from a year ago, thanks to our continuous efforts to optimize user acquisition strategy to enhance efficiency, which enabled us to obtain a relatively stable user scale with lower investment in channels. The improvement in capital utilization efficiency has played a positive role in holding up Momo's overall profit level. In Q1, Momo had 7.8 million paying users, flat sequentially. The COVID spike and the Chinese New Year holiday had a severe negative impact, particularly on the demand from long-tail VAS users. After the holiday, people's life returned to normal, and users' consumption sentiment also began to recover. However, the relatively large decrease in the number of paying users in the first half of the quarter dragged down the average for the entire quarter. In terms of various users' engagement metrics, the trend in users' engagement and retention at the beginning of the year is consistent with that of MAUs. After entering the rebound period, use cases with strong LBS attributes, which were hit hard by the pandemic, recovered particularly well.
陌陌作为一个有11年历史的成熟品牌，经历过用户快速增长的阶段，目前的战略重点以控本维稳为主。我们今年对于这块现金流业务的整体策略是专注考核 ROI， 优化 LTV 效果不佳的渠道，推动有利润的增长，避免盲目追求不能带来利润的增量用户。在这种情况下，与付费用户相比， MAU 对投资人来说将不再是最有意义的运营指标，从而无需按季度来追踪它的变化趋势。因此，管理层决定从2季度起，除非用户规模发生大幅的变化，否则将不再以季度为单位公布 MAU 数据。我们也建议投资人把对陌陌用户指标的关注重点集中到付费用户的变化趋势。
As a mature with more than a decade of history, Momo earlier has experienced a period of rapid user growth. However, our current strategic priority is to control costs and maintain stability of the user scale. Our overall strategy for this cash cow in 2023 is to focus on ROI reducing investments in low LTV channels to drive profitable growth rather than blindly chasing unprofitable user growth. Consequently, in comparison with paying user count, MAU will no longer be the most meaningful operational matrix for investors and thus does not need to be tracked on a quarterly basis. Therefore, we have decided to stop disclosing MAU data on a quarterly basis from Q2 onwards, unless there are significant changes in our user base. We suggest that investors focus on the trend in paying user when looking at Momo's users matrix.
接下来介绍一下探探的情况。首先是用户趋势和整体财务表现。年初用户规模受疫情、春节以及持续的渠道减投等内外部因素的影响，明显承压。流量在春节低点过后逐步恢复。3月 MAU 1950万，环比增长 6%， 增长主要来自外部压力缓解后自然量的持续回升。另一方面，进入春季以来，由于用户疫情后的迅速回升，平台受到了较大规模的 spam 的攻击，对交友生态的健康造成了威胁。于是我们进行了较为严厉的反 spam 清理，令用户有所回落。但总体而言，我们判断过去3年由于疫情及减投控本策略带来的 MAU 持续下降趋势已经逐渐见底了。在目前的基础上，不排除小幅的上下波动，但在维持目前市场投入水平的情形下，总体 MAU 将在1800万附近维持平衡状态。下一步的工作是持续提升渠道效率，控制获客成本，同时通过产品创新提升 ARPU 和留存，令 ROI 获得持续明显的提升，推动探探走向稳定的商业正循环，并在此基础上实现用户增长。截止到1季度末，探探付费用户160万，环比减少10万人，主要原因在于疫情爆发及春节因素导致的前半季度用户消费需求疲软。
Now, let's review Tantan's performance. At the beginning of the year, our user base was severely affected by internal and external factors such as the pandemic, Chinese New Year, and the continued reduction in channel investment. Traffic started to recover gradually after the Chinese New Year. In March, MAUs increased 6% sequentially to 19.5 million. The growth was mainly due to the continued recovery in organic traffic after the external pressures eased off. Entering spring, as user dating sentiment came back rapidly, we've been seeing an outbreak in spamming activities on Tantan, threatening the health of the dating ecosystem. Therefore, we've launched a heavy-fisted anti-spam campaign, which has caused the users count to go down from the March level. However, overall speaking, we believe that the past more than 3 years downward trend in MAU caused by the pandemic and scale back in marketing has gradually bottomed out. We may see some small fluctuations from the current level, but overall speaking, if marketing spend stays at the Q1 level, our user base should remain stable around 18 million. Our next step plan is to further improve channel efficiency while increasing our pool and retention through product innovation in order to sustainably improve ROI and drive Tantan into a stable positive business cycle and pursue user growth from that. As of the end of Q1, Tantan's paying user count was 1.6 million, a decrease of 100,000 from the previous quarter, mainly due to the pandemic and Chinese New Year, which led to soft consumer demand in the first half of the quarter.
接下来回顾一下探探的财务表现。一季度，探探总营收 3.09 亿人民币，同比下降 12%， 环比下降 11%。虽然疫情以及减投控本令 MAU 及付费用户规模同比出现了 24% 和 33% 的显著下降，但产品及付费体验升级带来了 ARPU 的增长，这很大程度抵消了付费人数减少对流水造成的冲击。环比来看，一季度收入下降来自年初疫情及春节因素压抑用户消费需要，付费人数和 ARPU 较去年4季度均有所下滑。分业务线看 ，VAS 收入 1.68 亿人民币，环比下降 9%， 直播收入 1.4 亿人民币，环比下降 14%。但令人高兴的是，我们的减投控本以及提升 ROI 方面的努力也正在呈现出效果。 在人员和推广方面的资金使用效率显著提升，单位获客成本开始持续而显著下降。伴随资金使用效率的提升以及渠道投放的进一步缩窄，一季度虽然收入受外部因素影响暂时回落，但探探实现了历史上首次运营层面的盈利，为全年战略目标的推进开了一个好头。
Now, I'll briefly review Tantan's financial performance. Total revenue for the first quarter was 309 million RMB, down 12% year-over-year and 11% sequentially. Although the pandemic and reduction in channel investment caused a significant year-over-year decline in MAU and paying users by 24% and 33% respectively. The increase in ARPU brought about by product and paying experience upgrades have partially offset the impact of the decline in the paying user count on revenue. The sequential decline in revenue was due to the suppressed user demand caused by the COVID infection surge at the beginning of the year and Chinese New Year. Both the number of paying users and ARPU declined compared with Q4 last year. VAS revenue was 168 million RMB, down 9% sequentially. Live streaming revenue was 140 million RMB, down 14% quarter-over-quarter. However, it's good to see that our efforts to reduce costs and increase ROI are paying off. The efficiency of capital utilization in terms of personnel and marketing was substantially improved, and unit acquisition costs continue to decrease significantly. With the improvement in capital utilization efficiency and further optimization in channel investments, even though revenue fell temporarily due to external factors, Tantan achieved its first ever quarterly profit at the operating level, a good start to achieving its strategic goal for the year.
今年探探的战略目标是实现盈亏平衡，跑通适合亚洲市场约会文化的产品和商业模式，在商业正循环的基础上追求可持续增长。实现这个目标需要渠道和产品的共同努力。下面给大家介绍一下团队在这两方面都具体做了哪些工作，以及后续的执行计划。
For Tantan, our strategic goal is to achieve break-even for the year and develop product and monetization models that are suitable for the Asian dating culture in order to pursue sustainable growth on the back of a positive business cycle. To achieve this, we will be pursuing hard on both marketing and product fronts. Now, let me brief you on the specific work our team has done in these areas and our execution plan going forward.
首先是渠道，削减低 ROI 渠道投放，提升渠道获客效率，是去年下半年探探战略调整的重点工作之一，也是本季度探探实现盈利的关键因素所在。鉴于年初多重外部因素叠加，严重压抑了用户对于约会产品的使用心智以及付费意愿，我们进一步下调了探探的渠道预算，并将精力重点集中在例如调整渠道方案、提升优质用户触达效率，以及优化落地体验、降低新用户进入门槛这类精细化运营的工作当中。数据显示，这些新举措对提升 DAU 起到了一定的促进作用。一季度单位获客成本同环比大幅收窄，渠道 ROI 在12月低点过后明显改善，并形成了自给自足的正循环， MAU 也止跌企稳。也就是说，探探已经成为一个在维持当前用户体量的情况下可以持续盈利的业务。
Firstly, on the channel front, one of our strategic priorities in the second half of last year was to cut down investments in low ROI marketing channels and improve user acquisition efficiency. This was the key factor for Tantan to achieve operating profit this quarter. Given the multiple external challenges at the beginning of the year, which had a significant impact on the user's dating sentiment and willingness to pay, we further reduced Tantan's channel marketing spend and focused our efforts on refining our operations, such as adjusting channel strategies to reach high-quality users more efficiently and optimizing our onboarding experience to lower entry-level barrier for new users. Our data shows that these new initiatives have contributed to the improvement in DAU. In the first quarter, unit acquisition costs decreased significantly both year-on-year and sequentially. Channel ROI improved significantly after the low point in December last year, and formed a self-sustaining cycle. MAU also stabilized after a period of decline. In other words, Tantan has become a sustainably profitable business based on its current user base.
然而，我们对探探的期待远不止于此。尽管去年为应对外部环境进行了战略调整，但探探的长期目标并没有改变。因为探探面对的是一个有真实使用需求却又始终未能得到很好满足的数以亿计的用户群体。在顶峰时期，探探的用户规模接近陌陌的一半。但过去几年，由于疫情以及我们在产品层面过于保守的发展策略，导致探探用户出现较大规模的回撤。调整战略目标的目的是让我们在不亏损的情况下重新做大探探的用户和收入。一季度我们已经实现了战略目标的第一步，也就是盈亏平衡。后续要做的是如何通过产品创新满足那些未能解决的用户需求，以及通过新的产品体验提升客单价，推动用户及收入增长。这就是我们所说的正向循环下的增长。
However, our expectations for Momo goes far beyond this. Despite the strategic adjustments we have made over the past year, Tantan's long-term goal remains unchanged, as it faces a big market that consists of hundreds of millions of users with genuine dating demand that are currently underserved. At its peak, Tantan's user base was almost half the size of Momo's. However, in recent years, due to the impact of COVID and our overly conservative product development strategy, Tantan's user base declined substantially. The whole point of adjusting our strategic goal is to resume Tantan's user and revenue growth without incurring losses. In the first quarter, we achieved the first step of our strategic goal, which is to achieve break-even. The next step for us is to address the underdeserved user needs through product innovations and leverage new product experience to improve ARPU and drive user and revenue growth. This is what we mean by driving sustainable growth on the back of a positive business cycle.
这方面，我们明确了两个重要的方向：一，用户产品探索滑动匹配之外的社交体验；二，商业产品提供客单价更为灵活的增值服务。一季度，我们尝试将缺乏滑卡行为的用户优先分发到例如动态之类的具有内容属性的场景，让不善于尬聊的用户能够借助评论动态得到更多及时的互动机会，提升社交正反馈。从商业化的角度看，我们认为当前的 ARPU 还有很大的提升空间，但 ARPU 增长不应该来自像我们前些年那样通过构建厚重的付费墙或直播来实现。我们过去一年遵循的新路线是推出更多有助于提升约会体验的新产品。1月，我们对上年末推出的高端黑金会员进行了特权升级和重新定价，之后吸引了一批以前未能覆盖的高端用户群体。黑金会员的调整将春节淡季的 ARPU 推到历史新高，带来的增量收入对淡季日流水起到了一定的支撑作用。在灰会员 WAS 的产品探索方面，聊天室场景的渗透率伴随我们对产品的不断打磨持续提升。如果黑金会员、聊天室以及其他增值新产品能够带动 ARPU 的显著增长，进而有效提升获客 ROI， 我们就可以将利润投入到获客当中，从而推动用户和收入的持续增长。
We have clarified two important directions on this front. First, for user products, we need to create social experiences beyond the swipe and match features. Second, for commercial products, we need to introduce new VAS paying models with more flexibility to improve ARPU. In the first quarter, we try to prioritize diverting users who are reluctant to swipe to content-based use cases, such as the post. This helps those who are not very good at talking to strangers out of nowhere to get more timely interactive opportunities by commenting on posts, thereby increasing the positive social feedback. In terms of monetization, we believe there's a lot of room for ARPU improvement, but we don't think ARPU growth should come from building excessive paywalls for memberships, or live streaming, as we did a couple of years ago. Since last year, we have taken a new approach to monetization that can enhance dating experience. In January, we upgraded and repriced our high-end Black Gold membership service, which we launched at the end of last year. Since then, we've attracted a group of high-paying users that we couldn't reach before. The adjustment of the Black Gold membership service drove our ARPU to a record high during the Chinese New Year holiday period, which normally is a low season for our business, and supported our daily revenue against the seasonality with its incremental revenue. In terms of non-membership VAS features, we continued to increase the penetration ratio of our chat room experience through continued product refinement. If the Black Gold membership service, chat room, and other new VAS products can deliver significant ARPU growth and effectively improve channel ROI, then we will invest our profit in user acquisition to drive further user growth and revenue.
最后聊下创新业务团队在持续丰富、品牌矩阵、打造长期增长引擎这一战略重点方面取得了进展。对于 ROI 项独立 apps， 我们今年的目标是持续扩大利润规模，为集团贡献增量流水和利润。一季度，创新业务中以追求利润为目标的独立 apps 整体营收 2.28 亿人民币，同比增长 42%， 环比持平。增速放缓的主要原因在于生命周期相对成熟的国内社交产品受疫情及春节因素影响，流水环比小幅回落，而体量最大且处于快速增长阶段的海外社交产品受斋月禁渔、土耳其地震以及埃及汇率贬值等短期负面因素影响流水增速阶段性放缓。团队迅速做出了应对方案，调整推广计划，收缩运营成本，尽量使利润水平保持稳定。海外产品在调整重点市场方向后，当地收入占比稳步提升，获客 ROI 趋势向好，为年内收入及利润快速增长奠定了很好的基础。我们预计国内业务在玩法迭代以及成本优化的作用下，年内将同海外产品一起为集团贡献更多的增量利润。
Lastly, I will review the progress we've made against our strategic priorities of enriching product portfolio and developing long-term growth engines. Our plan for ROI-oriented standalone apps is to continue to scale our profit and to contribute additional incremental revenue and profit to the group. In the first quarter, total revenue of the profit-oriented standalone apps was 228 million RMB, up 42% year-over-year and flat sequentially. The deceleration in growth was mainly due to a slight quarter-over-quarter decline in revenue of the relatively mature domestic apps, which were negatively impacted by the pandemic and Chinese New Year. Overseas social app with the largest revenue scale and at the stage of rapid growth experienced a temporary revenue growth slowdown due to multiple short-term negative factors such as the reduction of social entertainment activities during Ramadan, the earthquake in Turkey, and the devaluation of Egyptian currency. Our team responded quickly by adjusting marketing plans to reduce operating expenses in order to protect profitability. We've also shifted market focus to countries that are less affected by the above-mentioned factors. The proportion of revenue from these markets increased steadily, while channel ROI trended upward, laying a good foundation for rapid revenue and profit growth this year. With continuous product iteration and cost optimization, we expect both domestic and overseas apps to contribute more incremental profit to the group this year.
以上是本次电话会我想和大家分享的内容。接下来请 Casey 为大家具体介绍一下财务情况。
This concludes my remarks. Now, let me pass the call over to Cassie for financial review. Cassie.
Thanks, Tang Zong and Ashley. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our conference call today. Now, let me briefly take you through the financial review. Total revenue for the first quarter 2023 came in better than our previous expectation at 2.82 billion RMB, down 10% year-on-year and 12% quarter-on-quarter. Non-GAAP net income attributable to the company was 471.9 million RMB, up 18% from the year-ago period, despite the top-line decrease, or down 3% from the previous quarter. The better-than-expected bottom-line performance was attributable to our continuous cost control efforts, which led to Tantan's break-even and improvement in Momo's profitability. Looking into the key revenue line items for the quarter, firstly, on the live broadcasting. Total revenue from live broadcasting business for the first quarter of 2023 was 1.43 billion RMB, down 11% year-on-year and 17% quarter-over-quarter. Momo app live broadcasting revenue totaled 1.29 billion RMB for the quarter, down 13% year-over-year and 17% quarter-over-quarter. The year-over-year decrease was due to the pressure caused by the COVID infection surge and regulatory factors. The sequential decrease was mainly due to COVID coupled with negative seasonality. Tantan's live broadcasting revenue amounted to 139.6 million RMB, up 12% from Q1 last year, but down 14% from the previous quarter. The year-over-year growth was mainly due to a low base in Q1 2022, when we adopted a demonetization strategy to focus on user experience and retention. The sequential decrease was due to the pandemic and negative seasonality. Revenue from value-added service for the first quarter of 2023 was 1.36 billion RMB, down 8% from Q1 last year and 6% sequentially. Revenue from value-added service on an ex-Tantan basis was 1.19 billion RMB in the first quarter of 2023, a 5% decrease year-on-year and down 6% sequentially. The decrease was due to pressure on the Momo application caused by the pandemic and Chinese New Year negative seasonality, which put pressure on both traffic and users' propensity to pay for value-added service. The year-over-year decrease was largely offset by incremental revenue contributed by the standalone new applications. Tantan's value-added service revenue amounted to renminbi 167.9 million, down 25% from Q1 last year and 9% from previous quarter. The decrease was mainly due to the COVID-related factors as well as the reduction on marketing spend. Non-GAAP cost of revenue for the first quarter of 2023 was 1.66 billion RMB, compared to 1.82 billion for the same period last year. Non-GAAP gross margin for the quarter was 40.0%, down 1.2% from the year-ago period, but up 0.6% from last quarter. The year-on-year decrease was mainly due to the one-off incentives that we provided to live streaming broadcasters to stimulate supply-side recovery after the pandemic surge. The sequential increase in non-GAAP gross margin was attributable to the reduction in the costs related to the year-end competition event in the previous quarter. Non-GAAP R&D expenses for the first quarter was 214.4 million RMB, compared to 229.2 million RMB for the same period last year, or a 6% decrease year-over-year. The decrease was due to the continuous optimization in personnel costs. Non-GAAP R&D expenses as a percentage of revenue remained relatively stable at below 8%. We ended the quarter with 1,533 total employees, of which 374 are from Tantan, compared to 1,936 total employees, of which 563 from Tantan a year ago. The R&D personnel as a percentage of total employee for the group was 63%, compared with 61% Q1 last year. Non-GAAP sales and marketing expenses for the first quarter was 372.0 million RMB, or 17% of total revenue, compared to 578.0 million RMB, or 18% of total revenue for the same period last year. The significant year-over-year decrease, both in terms of absolute RMB amount and as a percentage of revenue, was primarily attributable to Tantan's shift in marketing strategy to control costs and focus on channel ROI. Momo sales and marketing expenses remained stable from the year-ago period. However, With Momo's marketing spend, our team trimmed low-efficiency channel marketing spend and used the savings for Momo live streaming year-end gala, which did not happen last year due to COVID control measures. Non-GAAP G&A expenses was 88.4 million RMB for the first quarter 2023, compared to 85.9 million RMB for the same period last year. G&A expenses as a percentage of total revenue remained stable at 3% from the year-ago period. Non-GAAP operating income was 517.8 million RMB, an increase of 12% from Q1 2022, and up 4% from the previous quarter. Non-GAAP operating margin for the quarter was 18.4%, up 4 percentage points from the same period last year and 3 percentage points from the previous quarter. Non-GAAP operating expenses as a percentage of total revenue was 24%, a decrease from 28% in Q1 2022, but slightly up from 23% in Q4 last year, largely due to the sequential decrease at top line level due to seasonality. Non-GAAP operating expenses on a year-on-year basis decreased 24%. The decrease in absolute renminbi amount was primarily due to reduction in sales and marketing expenses and to a lesser degree, optimization in personnel costs. Now briefly on income tax expenses. Total income tax expenses was 122.6 million RMB for the quarter, with an effective tax rate of 20%. In Q1, the company accrued withholding income tax of 34.5 million RMB, which is 10% of undistributed profit generated by our WFOE. Without the withholding tax, our estimated non-GAAP effective tax rate was around 15% in the first quarter. Now turning to balance sheet and cash flow items. As of March 31st, 2023, Hello Group's cash equivalents, short-term deposits, long-term deposits, short-term investments, and restricted cash totaled 13.35 billion RMB compared to 13.40 billion RMB as of December 31st, 2022. Net cash provided by operating activities in the first quarter of 2023 was 451 million RMB, which was in line with net profit. Lastly, on business outlook. We estimated our second quarter revenue to come in the range from 3.0 billion RMB to 3.1 billion RMB, representing a decrease of 3.5% to 0.3% year-over-year, or an increase of 6.4% to 10% quarter-on-quarter. At segment level, for Q1 2023, on a sequential basis, we expect Momo revenue to grow high single digits and Tantan revenue to grow low single digits. Please be mindful that this forecast represents the company's current and preliminary view on the market and operational conditions, which are subject to changes. That concluded the prepared portion of today's discussion. With that, let me turn the call back to Ashley to start Q&A. Ashley, please.
Hi, operator. We are ready to take questions. Just a quick reminder for those who are taking questions, please ask your questions in Chinese and followed by English translation by yourself. Thanks.
Thank you. If you wish to ask a question, please press star one on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. If you wish to cancel your request, please press star two. If you're on a speakerphone, please pick up the handset to ask your question. Your first question comes from Zhujing Zhang with CICC. Please go ahead.
谢谢管理层接受我提问。想问一下关于探探的问题。有看到探探 MAU 一季度开始环比回升，那想请管理层分享一下用户的近期展望，以及 VAS 会员和聊天室产品的进展。那另外财务角度，探探这季度也是首次运营利润层面的盈利。那想分享一下，看看探探全年的收入和利润展望是怎么样的。谢谢。Thanks management for taking my question. My question is about Tantan. We noticed that the MAU on Tantan has recovered in the first quarter. Could management share about the latest user trends and also what's the progress on VAS and chat room? In terms of financials, Tantan delivered the first quarterly profit at the operating level. What's your outlook for 2023 revenue and profitability? Thank you.
第 年初以来，探探取得的最大成绩是实现了历史上首次运营层面的盈亏平衡，渠道 ROI 已经打正，同时用户规模也已经触底。在此基础上，要获得有效的用户增长，新客的边际贡献率需要进一步提升。因此，我们下一步的计划是通过新的 WAS 产品提升 ARPU， 同时渠道上通过技术手段进一步的压缩单位获客成本，通过产品和渠道两方面的努力来共同推动这个 ROI 的增长。
Tantan's biggest achievement since the beginning of the year is that it delivered its first ever quarterly profit at the operating level. Channel ROI turned positive and user scale has bottomed out. We need to further improve the marginal contribution rate of the new users in order to achieve effective user growth from the current level onwards. Therefore, our next step is to increase ARPU through new VAS features, and at the same time, further reduce unit acquisition costs through technical means to drive ROI growth through both product and channel efforts.
就提升 ARPU 这个目标而言，实际上过去一段时间我们已经取得了不错的进展。除了一季度的淡季以外， ARPU 自2022年初一直保持着环比增长的趋势。这后面的驱动因素包括基础付费体验的提升，新的付费产品，例如像黑金会员和聊天室的推出等等。
In terms of our goal to increase ARPU, we have actually made some pretty good progress. Except for the low seasonality in the first quarter, Tantan's ARPU has actually been trending up sequentially since the beginning of 2022. The drivers behind this include improvements in the basic paying experience and the launch of new paying features such as the Black Gold membership service and the chat room and so on.
关于聊天室产品方面，年初以来也取得了不错的进展。不过在商业化的方面，我们暂时还不想做太过激进的安排，因为产品方面还没有完全达到我们想要的状态，而且我们也不局限于这一个新的付费体验。除了聊天室以外，我们还在测试其他新的产品功能来推动 ARPU 的增长。下半年我们会陆续的推出。
Regarding the chat room, we have also made some pretty good progress on the product front since the beginning of the year. We do not want to get too aggressive on the monetization for the time being because the product is not quite yet where we want it to be, and we're not limiting ourselves to this specific paying experience. In addition to the chat room, we are also testing other new product features to drive ARPU growth that will be launched in the second half of the year.
那收入预期方面的问题的话，开始来回答一下。
For Tantan's revenue, I guess Tantan's revenue will be driven by both user growth and ARPU growth. As Tangyan mentioned just now, we expect Tantan's ARPU to keep improving as we rolled out more value-added service experience in the second half of the year. And if we can get to a satisfactory level in terms of marketing ROI, we are gonna push the marketing button a bit harder. Then we're gonna see user growth kicking in as another leg of the growth engine. But before we actually see that second leg kicking in, I would lean on the conservative end and assume mid to high single digit quarter growth, top line growth for Tantan from Q2 onwards. So that's revenue. I guess the question covers the profitability outlook as we move deeper into the year as well. On that front, I guess I would say the bottom line will stay relatively stable around Q1's level as well. If, like I said, if marketing ROI improves in a significant way, top line and gross profit obviously would be higher. But instead of letting it flow straight to the bottom line, we would likely invest a good portion of that into marketing to build future driver and expand market share. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's it. Operator, next question, please.
Thank you. Your next question comes from Raphael Chen with BOCI. Please go ahead.
晚上好，谢谢管理层接受我的提问啊，恭喜这个季度强劲的一个业绩。我主要想请管理层更新一些业务方面的进展。首先呢，否请管理层分享一下探探海外业务的一个发展的情况。其次呢，否请管理层分享一些新业务里，包括 ROI 导向产品和 DAU 导向产品贴的一个最新的进展情况。I will translate myself. Thanks management for taking my questions. Congrats on the strong quarter. Firstly, could management share some latest updates on the development of Tantan overseas business? Secondly, could management share some insights on the latest updates of our new initiatives, including ROI-oriented apps and DAU-oriented apps? Thank you.
我们目前在海外确定性最强的产品是收雀。自从2021年明确了社交方向并锁定了中东市场后，收雀一直处于用户、收入、利润三条线共同快速增长的一个发展趋势。那么尽管一季度遇到了土耳其地震、埃及货币崩盘等这个意外事件，但收雀依然展现出很好的适应和持续增长的能力。目前土耳其市场的收入已经开始逐渐恢复，我们在转移投放市场的过程中，看到新兴的北非市场以及收雀传统的优势地区，也就是这个中东市场，都还有很大的增长空间。所以我们会集中资源在海外主打收雀这个产品，希望它在下半年能有一个更好的收入表现。
Our most promising overseas product currently is Socio, since we decided on the product direction, which is to focus on social and targeted the Middle East market in 2021. Socio has been experiencing rapid growth in terms of users, revenue, and profit. And despite encountered some unexpected events in the first quarter, such as the Turkish earthquake and the Egyptian currency devaluation, Socio has actually shown good resilience and continued growth. And revenue in the Turkish market has actually started to recover. And as we temporarily shifted marketing dollars away from the above-mentioned affected markets, we saw good potentials for growth in emerging markets, such as North Africa and also in the Middle East, which is Socio's traditional stronghold. Therefore, we will focus our resources on marketing Socio overseas and hope that it can achieve better revenue performance in the second half of this year.
那么至于探探海外，我们过去1年多在印尼以及其他的东南亚国家进行了一些尝试，但可能由于本地化运营做得还不够好，所以暂时我们还没有能够找到可以成规模赚钱的方式。这方面我们还需要多一点时间去探索。但我们会坚持当前的策略，那就是追求有利润的增长，也就是说没有特别明显的 ROI 为正的情况下，我们不会贸然加大市场投入，而是在维持盈亏平衡的前提下，持续摸索可以扩大利润规模的方式。
As for Tantan's overseas development, we have been making some experiments in Indonesia and some other Southeast Asian countries for over a year. And maybe because our localized operation is not quite good enough yet, we haven't found a way to scale up profit. And we need more time to figure this out. However, we will stick to our current strategy of pursuing profitable growth. In other words, we will not rush to increase marketing investments without a significant positive ROI, and instead, we will continue to explore ways to scale our profit while maintaining break-even.
新业务里边目前发展最好也是前景最广阔的是海外社交产品，就是刚才说的这个收雀。这几年呢，中国互联网公司出海产品很多，而收雀的成功告诉我们，这个社交产品在海外市场其实是有相当大的优势的。那作为一个社交起家的公司，我们的团队在产品和商业化方面积累了很多经验，通过社交属性吸引用户，再借助增值服务进行变现，这是个很赚钱的模式。目前中东和北非地区以及其他的一些亚洲国家还有一些有潜力但我们还没有涉足的这个市场。 那么鉴于SoulChill在短短2年就能够成为为集团贡献非常可观的收入和利润，我们计划在上述的这些潜力地区的细分市场复制这个SoulChill的模式，扩大可覆盖用户群体的同时呢，也能够获取更丰厚的利润。我们最近在实验几款新的产品，会在以后合适的时间跟大家更新一下具体情况。
The most promising app amongst our new endeavors is actually our overseas social product SoulChill. In the recent years, many Chinese internet companies have launched products overseas, and the success of SoulChill has actually shown that social apps has quite considerable advantage in the overseas market. As a company that started with social products, our team have actually accumulated very intensive experiences in terms of user products and monetization. Attracting users through social attributes and monetizing the traffic through value-added service is actually a very profitable business model. And currently, there are many other potential markets in the MENA regions and also in some other Asian countries that we haven't got a chance to enter yet. And given that SoulChill has contributed significant revenue and profit to our group in just 2 years period of time, we plan to replicate the SoulChill model in these potential markets to expand our users' coverage and generate more substantial profits. We have recently been actually experimenting with several new products, and we'll update you in the due course.
去年底开始，我们收紧了这个探探的渠道预算，贴贴的渠道预算，把重点放在了产品的校园推广。因为我们发现这个产品对于学校里的年轻人之间增强亲密关系、提升趣味互动非常适用。我们目前的想法是，如果能找到新的模式，吸引新的用户群体，扩大整体用户规模，我们会继续跟进市场投放。否则的话，我们会准备启动这个贴贴的商业化进程。那么我们的产品线里还有好几款这个其他的 DAU 导向的这个产品，但目前都还处于比较早期的阶段，等有更多的数据再跟大家分享。
Since the end of last year, we tightened our channel budget for Tietie and focused on campus marketing. And this is because we found that this product is particularly suitable to enhance intimacy and fun interactions amongst young people in universities. Our current thinking is that if we can find a new model that can attract new users group and expand the overall user base, we will continue to invest in marketing. Otherwise, we will prepare to start monetizing Tietie. We have several other DAU-oriented products in our pipeline, but they're still at a quite early stage, and we will update you when we have more data. I think that answers your questions, Ralph. Maybe let's move to the next question. Operator.
Thank you. Your next question comes from Thomas Chong with Jefferies. Please go ahead.
晚上好，谢谢管理层接受我的提问。我的问题是陌陌主 APP 的，管理层可以分享一下从2季度以来现在的用户数还有活跃的趋势。另外的话呢，还想多问一下，就是关于陌陌全年的一个收入的预期，以及从集团的层面的一个利润的一个 outlook。Thanks management for taking my questions. I have 2 questions. My first question is about Momo app. How should we think about the user scale since Q2 and also the engagement? And on the other hand, talking about the outlook, can management talk about the full year revenue trend as well as from a group level perspective, how should we think about the profitability? Thank you.
前面的问题我来回答一下吧，然后如果有收入方面的问题，到时候开始来解答一下。那么陌陌的 DAU 和整体活跃度在春节假期过后都迅速的反弹，增长趋势比往年更加强劲。那么进入5月份，增速会放缓，但仍然处于微涨的这个状态。我们对于陌陌这个老产品在渠道减投的情况下，主要凭借自然量的回升， 能走出当前的曲线呢，其实是感到非常满意的。
Momo DAU and user engagement rebounded rapidly after the Chinese New Year holiday, and the growth momentum was stronger than in previous years. Although the growth rate slowed down in May, but it still is showing a slight upward trend. And we are very pleased to see that Momo, as a mature brand, can achieve this current users trend, and driven by the recovery of the organic users, and despite the reduction in channel investment.
这背后的原因啊，我觉得一方面是疫情后社交回暖的表现，那另一方面呢，我们的产品团队今年也有很多积极的创新，例如给用户更及时的互动体验，像动态和小宇宙啊这种内容分享和情感倾诉类的产品渗透率也有显著的提升。应该说，进入到2023年以来，陌陌整体的用户活跃度及商业化的表现，还是给我们带来了很多惊喜的。这证明了陌陌的品牌影响力、产品形态和社交生态都具有强大的生命力，这也给了我们团队更强的信心，来保持这个现金流业务稳定的产出能力。
I think the reason behind this is that, on the one hand, Momo is benefiting from the recovery in social sentiment after the pandemic. And on the other hand, our product team has made many innovations this year, such as providing users with more timely interactive experiences. The penetration ratio of our content and emotional sharing use cases, such as the post and the miniverse, has actually increased significantly. I must say that the user engagement and financial performance of the Momo app has positively surprised me in 2023. This proves the strong vitality of Momo's brand influence and product form and social ecosystem, which also gives our team more confidence to maintain the steady productivity of this cash cow business.
Okay, this is Kathy. I guess I'll take the financial part of the question. I believe the first part of the question is our revenue outlook for the cash cow for the X-Tantan part, and then the profitability outlook for the whole group. For Momo's top line outlook, or more broadly the X-Tantan part, as you can see from our Q2 guidance, the second quarter top line is showing a pretty nice and healthy quarter-over-quarter growth. The driving forces here came mainly from two directions. One is the overall post-COVID recovery, both in terms of social sentiment and in terms of the consumer spending. The other driving factor is, of course, the growth momentum from the new applications, with the overseas market being particularly strong and resilient. So that's Q2. Looking beyond that into the rest of the year, I believe top line performance will continue to be dependent on these two driving forces. Currently, we are still gaining pretty strong traction in the MENA area, and there are a number of other markets that we are eyeing on and may try expanding into as the year progresses. So that part should continue to drive the overall top line. The other factor, which is China's macro, I guess we're seeing more of a mixed picture here. A lot of it will depend on consumer confidence, especially the financial condition of the wealthier private business owners, how they may perceive their future economic, how they may perceive the future economic trends. Now it looks like that Chinese government is pretty determined to make things work on that front, so we remain cautiously optimistic on the macro side as well. And the other factor that we should consider as far as modeling is concerned is that as we head into the second half of this year, the con is going to become much easier. So if you consider all those factors, we have a good level of optimism that we should exit the year with a mid to high single-digit year-over-year growth for the ex-Tantan part. And that should lay a pretty good foundation for the year 2024. So that's the top-line outlook for the ex-Tantan part. Bottom line-wise, I think this is a question for the whole group. We don't really have a very prescriptive outlook or guideline for bottom line, but I would generally break down that question between our view on the gross profit margins and the OPEX. Gross margin, at the gross margin level, our view remains the same as what I said at the beginning of the year, which is that revenue share with the broadcasters and agencies should remain relatively stable in the foreseeable future. And with payout being the biggest cost driver, if that's going to remain stable, it means gross profit margin will also stay relatively stable. So I guess what investors can do is to use Q1's gross profit margin to model out the rest of the year. Revenue mix may move, the change in revenue mix quarter over quarter may move the margin within a narrow range, but I would say that roughly speaking, Q1 is a good reference point to use. With respect to operating expenses, Q1 we did a pretty good job. As you can see, we did a pretty good job in cost control. We expect operating expenses to further decrease in the second quarter as some of our optimization efforts continue to bear fruits. As the year progresses into the back half, we would like to keep some flexibility there so that if we see good spending opportunities, we can spend a little bit more. So it's possible that you're going to see a slight trend up in both R&D and marketing expenses. But again, if that does happen as the year progresses, it should come with good ROI and thus bigger profit as well. And maybe just a bit more color on the operating margin. I think on a non-GAAP basis, we were at 18-something% in Q1 on non-GAAP basis. Q2 onwards, with revenue ramping up and cost control on the right track, we would start seeing operating leverage, probably for the first time in the recent couple of years, as I can remember. It looks like that we can get back. There's a good chance that we can get back to the 20-something% range in the second half in terms of non-GAAP operating margin at a group level. I think that's a healthy bottom line margin range, for the business profile that we currently have. So that's the thing that I can share at this point based on the visibility that we have. And I'll give back to Ashley for more questions if we still have time.
I think that's all the time we have for today's session. Maybe let's just call it a day. And thank you everyone for participating, and we will see you next quarter.
Thank you. Operator, ready to close?
Thank you. That does conclude our conference for today. Thank you for participating. You may now disconnect.